Is obesity a disability? This topic is very controversial. In today's debate, we will be discussing how obesity is a disability from a socioeconomic perspective by Michaela McDonald, Levi Jeffries, Janelle Pence, Amanda Harrison, Daisy Garcia, and Michelle Benavides. The purpose of this debate is to explain why obesity should be classified as a disability from a socioeconomic standpoint, define the terms obesity and disability and their common characteristics, compare the factors that cause a disability versus the factors that cause obesity, compare the challenges of people with obesity and a disability, explain the health risks related to obesity and disability caused by a poor socioeconomic status.
Before jumping into this debate, it is critical that I define two terminologies that you're going to hear used throughout this presentation, starting with obesity. Obesity is a disorder involving excessive body fat that increases the risk of health problems. Obesity occurs when a person's body mass index is 30 or greater. Next up, we have disability. What is a disability? A disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movement, senses, or activities. Now that we've defined both terms in this discussion, we can start talking about some of the common characteristics you see. Starting with obesity, the population tends to experience symptoms such as binge eating, fatigue, potbelly, or now that we've defined terms in this discussion, we can start talking about some of the common characteristics you see. Starting with obesity, the population tends to experience symptoms such as binge eating, fatigue, potbelly, or snoring. The NHANES data shows that 18.5% of children ages 2 to 19 in America are obese, while 39.6% of adults are also obese. This latest data is record numbers for the country. Next up, we have disabilities. 1 in 4 US adults, or 64 million, suffer from disabilities. Some common disabilities that we see range from vision impairment, deaf or hard of hearing, physical disabilities, and mental conditions.
Shared challenges of obesity and disability from a socioeconomic standpoint. People with a disability and people with obesity both suffer with everyday things that most people have no trouble doing. Achieving the recommended 30 to 60 minutes of physical activity per day is a challenge that both of them face due to limited motor skills, increased risk of physical and mental illness, an environment that is not accessible, such as transportation barriers and physical barriers. For transportation barriers, visual or physical impairments disable them from driving, and also lack of accessible transportation. For physical barriers, things such as steps or curves disable both of them from having an environment that is accessible to them. Another challenge that both of them face is social barriers at school and or work. With obesity, there's an increased risk of being disabled, and with a disability, there's an increased risk of being obese. So those two go hand in hand with one another.
There are many factors that can lead to obesity. These socioeconomic factors often include poor nutrition choices due to the use of small welfare budgets. Another factor to include are poor or unsafe neighborhoods, which can obstruct an individual from walking or jogging their suburb streets. And finally, the lack of proper diet assistance and health care can also cause obesity. These are just a few factors that can cause obesity when you come from a poor societal background. Having a disability can be caused by many things when you come from a poor socioeconomic background. A few of these factors include not having proper health care to aid an individual who may have a disability, or not having the income to afford enough healthy food for an entire family. And finally, living in conditions where there is little clean water and poor hygiene is practiced. All of these factors previously stated are just a few of many reasons why someone may have a current disability. Seen in the previous two slides, there are many factors that can cause obesity and disability. A few of the shared factors amongst the two are the unavailable source for healthful food choices and the lack of income to be able to afford basic health care. Both of these factors are often seen in areas where the poverty rates are very high. An individual's poor socioeconomic status has the potential to cause both obesity and disability in daily life.
Health risks related to obesity and disability caused by poor socioeconomic status. People who are obese are unable to bear weight down upon their limbs or are unable to move without the assistance of others fall well within the lines of disabled and psychologically impaired. Health risks related such as dementia, osteoarthritis, gout, inflamed veins, heart and lung disease, sleep apnea, and etc. We have to take this into account that many people with obesity face challenges, whether it's walking, getting in and out of vehicles, and onto a bus, not being able to stand very long, and the stress and strain that gets put on their body. They're disabled and need assistance. Having these kind of occasions happen to people put in situations, it can often lead to mental stress, emotional distress, and not having the need to live a everyday life as most people can. It can cause many mental issues as well that could also lead into why it's based on being a disability. It's not just assistance, the lack of it, but it's also not also like the physical aspect, but also the mental and emotional aspect of it as well.
Why is obesity considered a disability? Being obese increases the likelihood of a person developing many more life-threatening diseases, such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, different types of cancers, and stroke. People who are obese may also have problems that reduce their quality of life and make their daily lives more challenging. Some of those challenges include difficulty moving around, bowel and stomach problems, knee problems, impaired psychological health, fatigue, etc. Some people might not see how individuals with disabilities are more likely to become obese. It can be harder for people with disabilities to eat healthy, regulate their weight, and be physically active. These things might be due to physical limitations that can reduce a person's ability to exercise, medications that contribute to weight gain and changes in appetite, a lack of energy, and a lack of resources.
This is our reference page. All images are from Google Photos. Thank you for listening to our debate on why obesity should be seen as a